guess this doesn't say anything more than we already knew.
You're on, Linda.
Okay, wait. Okay, now. Okay.
Okay, thank you. We'll call this meeting to order on March 24th, 2021. Public comment?
Linda, will you pull the mic for us?
Okay,
Thank you so much.
sure. Public comment during this portion of the agenda must be limited to matters on the agenda for action. Each person has up to 5 minutes to speak on a specific agenda item. To comment during the meeting, members of the public may call 702-589-9629 when the public comment period is opened. And it is open now. Okay, hearing no public comment, then we will move on.
Public comment?
Oh, do you have a public oh, okay, then come up to the podium and state your name.
I didn't know if it was officially opened.
Oh, I'm
just
sorry.
Sleeping.
Oh.
My name is Fred Bachhuber, Boulder City resident, volunteer with Lend a Hand and chair of the building committee. I am especially interested in agenda item number 3. I've been agonizing and excited over Building 3 in the ABC Park for over 2 years now. And if you have any questions in discussion of agenda number 3I or the president of Lend a Hand, Barbara Hunter, we would be very happy to interact with the committee. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, any other public comment at this time? Okay, hearing none, then we will go on. For possible action, approval of the minutes of the February 24th, 2021 regular meeting.
I'd make a motion to accept the minutes as printed.
Okay,
Second.
okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Motion is carried. For possible action, review and recommendation on a proposed addition at 430 Ash Street relative to the adopted exterior design guidelines for that area.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You've got plans in your packets for a proposed addition onto the north side of a home at 430 Ash Street. And the attached form indicates that there's a few items that do not conform to the adopted guidelines. Specifically that the addition is going to have a tile roof to match the house, but the guidelines refer to shingle, and the eaves will be enclosed. The new windows will not be double hung or have wood frame screens, and the addition is not at the rear of the home. So all the normal pertinent information relative that we have on file for the historic aspects of the home is attached in your packet, along with the the 10 standards from the Secretary of Interior's Standards for Rehabilitation, and I believe the owner, Mr. Sears, is here in case you've got any questions of him.
Okay. All right. Are there any comments about 430 Ash Street?
I guess my comments would be for the property owner to ask if they could comply with the guidelines.
Yes, please.
I would have to change my windows that are existing, because I don't have any shutters, I don't have wood frames. And I don't have to change that style. I want to keep that same look. And I want to change the tile roof. It's already got concrete tile, so I don't want to go to shingle. I just want to leave that concrete tile alone and match it the best I can. And then as for going out the back, I have to go off to the side, because going out the back wouldn't add a bathroom to that bedroom. So I'm kind of limited to what I can do there. So I guess that's my answer. Yeah, I would if I could.
Okay, any other comments? Oh, okay. All right
Excuse
then.
me, just
Yes.
so, because I always follow up by completing that report as to whether or not there were any recommendations of the committee. So
Okay,
does the committee have any recommendations for the owner?
I don't have any recommendations.
I don't have any recommendations.
Okay.
okay, I guess that's it then.
Great,
All
thank
right,
you.
thank you, Susan. Okay. For possible action, courtesy review of proposed changes for Cottage 3 at ABC Park relative to the environmental assessment for Cdbg funds.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As the report notes, this property at ABC Park is not within our historic district. However, the proposed building that is intended to be remodeled for future occupancy by Linda Hand was one of the original cottages from when the property was originally the Southern Nevada Children's Home. And those buildings just turned over the 50-year mark fairly recently, within the last year or two. And so since federal dollars will be used for this building rehab, we know that as part of the required environmental review process, the county is proceeding with that process. It's already begun, but unfortunately it is behind schedule. We had the funding, the grant funding approved more than a year ago, so the county's been aware of it for that time, but due to COVID, the department that handles all these grants also is the Department of Social Service, so they've been pretty overwhelmed with COVID measures for more than a year. But they have recently contracted with the consultant that will be doing the environmental assessment for this property. And part of that process means that one of the many agencies they will contact will be the State Historic Preservation Office, which when they look up at the information on the tax rolls, will see that, you know, the buildings there were originally built in 1969. That between the consultants and them, that will trigger that aspect of the review. They will come out, the county's consultant will come out and get a whole bunch of photographs and make an analysis of the building and provide their determination to the SHPO as to whether or not they think the property is, or the building is eligible for potential listing on the National Register. That's pretty much what they focus on for their assessment. Even if they determine if a building is eligible for potential listing, it doesn't mean that it's going to be listed or that it's even going to be submitted. It's just how they have to evaluate it. And Member Davenport had sent an email asking if it was premature for the committee to look at it at this point. So I called the SHPO's office yesterday. I spoke to Kristen Brown, and she said, no, it's not premature. They definitely want to know that any local, bodies or persons in the community who would have an interest in historic preservation have had as much opportunity as possible, to comment or make any recommendations. So what I responded to her and the county was, is I provided them both links to tonight's agenda packet, so they knew what you'd be reviewing tonight and the version of the plans that we have at this point, and let them know that if, as part of the environmental review process, if either one of those parties wanted to come back to you for some reason, of course, we will certainly bring it back to the committee. But as this process has already been held up many, many months for the environmental review, we didn't want to delay it further just for the purposes of getting this before the committee. So now that we have the draft plans for the project, and Linda Hand, is in favor of the design and everything, at this point, we thought we'd bring it before the committee to see if you had any recommendations at this stage. We won't have to bring it back to you if the county or the SHPO doesn't require it, but if they do, we certainly will.
Okay. All right, thanks for the update. Mr. Buchemacher, what's your name again? Fred?
Hoover.
Fred. Okay, I'm so excited to see this. I know that you guys have been talking about this for several years.
2 years.
2 years, right. And I wondered, what happened. I hadn't seen anything in the newspaper or anything, so I'm just delighted that this is all coming forth. So thank you very much for being here.
Well, thank you.
We are delighted, believe me.
I'm sure.
And the efforts of Susan and Michael
Right.
and Jim, overwhelming. We
Good.
really appreciate it.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
And I neglected to mention our city engineer, Jim Keene, is here in case you've got any technical questions about the proposed renovations to the
Okay.
building.
Okay, Jim, thank you. All right, excellent. Okay, are there any comments? Yes, Mary.
And this might be a question for Jim. I went over the plans very carefully. Having worked with senior centers and mobility issues, I was, and I know that Linda Hand, they go to people's homes to do assessments, but I was wondering if this building would accommodate mobility scooters. Even a volunteer that might want to
Yeah.
volunteer and had a mobility scooter, would this be comfortable for them? And then I also noticed there was one restroom.
I believe it will. We can verify that with the architect, but I believe it will. They've widened out the corridors. They've made sure the doors meet ADA requirements for width, and the bathroom is ADA compliant.
There are 3 restrooms.
Yeah, often those are minimal for people with scooters, having experienced that on a number of occasions with
Okay.
people with disabilities.
Yeah, we can definitely ask that of the
Okay,
architect.
Great.
Find that out for sure.
Okay, very good. All right. Any other comments or questions?
I'm not sure who this is for. Overall, I think the plan is fine, given how it compares to the other buildings historically. I'm going by historically what's there. And I guess my question is, what is the roofing? Is that going to be a new roof?
No, it's the existing roof. It was replaced through the city a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago. The roof's perfectly fine. Nothing's happening with that.
What is it? Is it shingle?
It's tile. It's tile.
Is it tile
All the
that-
buildings in the park have tile. It looks identical to the other buildings.
It looks really dark in this picture. That's why I thought it was a different material.
Okay.
Is it?
No.
Oh, so it matches the other buildings. Okay.
Yes.
Perfect.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your name, and I'm not sure if it was a different person than I was told.
I'm Barbara Hunter, and I'm president of the board of Lend a Hand.
Thank you.
I would just like to wish you well with this project. I know how important it is and how long you've been waiting, and it's such a great improvement.
Thank you.
Yes,
Sure.
definitely.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations. And,
We're very excited, and the last year, the delay due to COVID has been frustrating, and so we're just so happy to be moving forward.
Yes, definitely. Well, the community, I'm sure, will appreciate that, and we're looking forward to having you there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I'd just like to say, I'm glad to see a building be put back to use, instead of just sitting there decaying.
That's
So,
right.
and it's also for a very good cause, so congratulations.
Thanks, Glenn.
Okay, very good. For possible action, update on implementation of the committee's goals and priorities.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. As we do each month, this is an opportunity to look at the updates regarding the committee's goals. And as usual, you will see noted in bold, those updates from last week's, you know.
That's okay, that's
Yes.
okay.
Last month's update to you. A couple of areas to highlight. You will see under development of the historic plan, when this was presented to the committee in February, we requested comments from the committee that were then shared with the consultant, Nevada Preservation Foundation. Those comments have been provided to them, and they will be updating the historic preservation draft plan and bringing it back to the committee for the April meeting on April 28th.
Okay.
SHPO is still reviewing the North Wind study and has provided some comments. So when that is all complete, we will bring that material back to the committee after SHPO has signed off on the the North Wind
Survey.
survey. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
And of course, the next agenda item is related to the ad hoc committee, and that will be talked about by this committee, so I won't add any more on that. So, any questions with the update?
Okay, any questions? Okay, moving on then, we will go to the update from the Historic Preservation Ad Hoc Committee. Okay, I guess, Blair, that's your turn, I guess. Anything you want to tell us?
Well, I don't know what this packet is. Is this,
That's the packet for Monday's meeting.
okay. So, I haven't looked at this until now, so.
Okay, that's fine.
But I guess, I can just give an update on, what we discussed. Sorry, I don't remember either.
Sorry, I can provide a broad overview.
Would
since,
you please?
yes, certainly.
Okay.
So, for Monday's meeting, the ad hoc committee is going to be focused on two items, specifically looking at the model SHPO ordinance. SHPO has put together a historic preservation ordinance for the regulation of historic properties within a community. The ad hoc committee has come to a consensus that they would like to use that as the model for proposed changes to our historic preservation ordinance. And so Monday night they will be discussing any modifications to SHPO's model ordinance. In addition to that, the other primary focus for Monday night is to discuss outreach efforts to the community, to provide guidance to staff on how to promote and let the community know about these proposed changes and give staff direction on how to implement that.
Okay, so basically then the ad hoc committee then will go over any changes. It's quite a detailed document, that SHPO has given us, so it will be, do you have any idea of how long that will take, like to go over that, or?
Well, certainly there would be a process for following public engagement, consideration of the model ordinance or the ad hoc committee's recommendation would come before this committee. Because this is part of Title 11, it would be considered by the Planning Commission. And then obviously any proposed changes would go before the City Council for final consideration.
Okay. All right, so then basically we're in the second step. All right, very good. All right.
So let me also point out that the city attorney
Yes.
provided us with a comparison of the different codes. So that's available. It's, in this
Okay.
package. But-
Okay, good.
So you can
Yeah.
see what, it's a really good comparison of,
Other cities and,
no, it's what our current code,
Okay.
our code from 2000,
okay.
and then the two SHPO models.
Oh, okay.
One is with a historic preservation officer, and then the other one is without a historic preservation officer.
Okay.
So the committee chose to work on the version, the historic preservation officer version.
Okay. Okay. So we're really narrowing it down then to, and as Mr. Mays said, we're working with SHPO, the SHPO model. All right, good. I'm glad we're making progress.
And I would like to, I guess, point out too, as we're working through, within the ad hoc committee, we're cognizant of the need to work with the community on this.
Right.
And to get that out. And so I would like for the Historic Preservation Committee to be kind of part of that effort. So what that looks like, you know.
Yeah, you'll talk about
We'll
it
find
later
that out.
as it comes along. Okay, very good. All right. Well, thank you, Blair. Thanks for your help in guiding us along in this. All right. Okay, we'll go on now. Discussion regarding activities for the Historic Preservation Event and Award for 2021.
Just one moment. Okay, I have some further updates regarding publicity, because basically at this point, the event, so to speak, is the award. So
Right.
the event being the video will be the presentation of the award. Obviously, all the work on that will come after the awardee is selected.
Right.
And at this point, as the information in the packet notes, we've got information that went out in the March and will go out also as a reminder in the April utility mailers. And the submittal deadline will be April 18th. So from when the first notices were mailed and the voting option went live about March 1st, that leaves a total of about 7 weeks open for nominations for the award.
Right.
And we still so far have only had one nomination. However, just so you know that, we've made every effort to get the word out there. Besides the information that I have in the staff report, our communications manager provided me this update. Basically, there were about 8,500 utility mailer flyers that go out. The news release went to over 200 recipients in 30 newsrooms, and that included TV, radio, magazine, newspaper, and blogs. Per the city's Notify Me newsflash option, there are 267 subscribers who get those, and the newsflash about this was opened by 95 subscribers, so that was a 36% open rate.
That's good.
On Facebook, it's been posted 6 times so far, and there have been 3,582 views to date. On Instagram, it was posted 4 times, which has been viewed 1,931 times. On Twitter, it's been posted twice, and there have been 546 views. And then also noted, it was included with Jim Gibson's monthly newsletter. We don't know how many people receive or see that.
Right.
In terms of hits or results to date, on the page for the HP Awards, she notes that there have been 68 visits to that page. 19 were followed by click-throughs to the nomination form, but again, so far we've only received one.
Yeah.
So maybe people just opened the form just to see what it entailed, and
Yeah, want to wait till later to fill it out.
hopefully so.
Yeah. Yeah,
And then on the webpage for HP month, which just basically leads you to click to the award page, there have been 52 visits to that. And then we also checked with the Boulder City Review because they have kind of like a standard little article that they just keep in their
right,
archives to be able to pull out every year and
Yeah.
update as needed. I'm not sure if it will be the full article tomorrow, but their other option is just to include something in the news brief. And they said it will be in the news brief for tomorrow's paper. And they've been aware of this, it's just that it's a limited-sized newspaper, and there's been a lot more important news
doesn't
that
always
they've had
have
to.
room, yeah.
Yeah, they just
Yeah.
didn't have room to put
Right,
in
yeah.
the information about this previously, but it will be in their news brief in tomorrow's paper.
Okay, good.
So that's the update.
I noticed when you printed this that it had been out to so many news media, and thank you for elaborating on that. Is that our communications person that does that, Lisa?
Lisa, yes.
Yes, she's doing an excellent job. It's interesting to see how many people are really actually seeing it.
Can I ask can you tell if somebody downloads the form instead of filling it in online?
It can't be downloaded, I believe. I think it's just an online form, but I know Michael fielded, I believe, an email or a phone call from somebody who said, I don't want to do it online. How do I do it? And Michael just said, just mail, email or mail us the information. And the information we send out says they can do that. They can just mail information to our department. Now that City Hall's open, if they want to walk it over by hand, they can do that. And people have taken advantage of that before, and the information we have on the website indicates that they can, send it to City Hall otherwise if they don't want to do the online version. Because really all they have to do is send us a notice saying, I nominate such and such a property and here's why. And if they have photos, they attach it. And people have done that before as well. We just offer the online option to make it really easy because most people do take advantage of that kind of thing these days.
Right. Yeah, they're doing that more and more. Okay, very good. So we've had one nomination. Hopefully, we'll have some more in hand by next month. So we're just moving right along. I see, too, that you gave us a schedule for the actual presentation, which is May 21st. Is that correct?
No,
No.
that's May of 2021. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I should have put in the full year there.
Oh,
just
I
all the rest
see.
of them.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. I thought it was May 21st.
Yeah,
So
I
you
can
don't
see-
know exactly. You just put May
Yeah,
2021.
in May, because you've designated May as,
Right.
rather the, I forget which federal agency or organization it is, but they refer to May as Preservation Month.
Right.
They don't call it Historic Preservation Month. They don't call it National Historic Preservation Month. They just call it Preservation Month. So
Okay.
the committee has followed suit by saying you want to basically do this award in May. So,
Right. So that's still open-ended. I read that wrong. Okay, very
Right.
good. Yeah, we had already finalized all of the,
right.
what we were
But-
going to do.
But basically, at next month's meeting, obviously, which will be April 28th, that's
Right.
when we'll provide whatever nominations we've received to you. You'll choose your, who chooses, who's going to receive the award at that meeting.
Right.
And then now, and obviously, we'll provide the old survey as well as the new survey information and the SOI standards. And you can begin to formulate your rationale for choosing, the winner. But depending on when the actual presentation will be done on site and videotaped, I don't know if that will be before or after your regular May meeting. So if the presentation will be before your May meeting, then I'll be reaching out most likely to Member Davenport after your April meeting to find out what
The language is.
she wants for the certificate. Like I
Right.
said, and next month we'll provide you, a few of the recent certificates so you can see the language that has been used before in terms of your rationale or justification for choosing that property as the winner.
Okay.
The only other thing I'll mention is when there was a question last month about the nomination process. Blair was asking about, you had didn't understand originally that the nomination form online was just a live interactive online version, not downloadable. And I mentioned, it's like, well, that would be understandable because as a committee member, you wouldn't have done that. However, just as a reminder, these award nominations have been open to the public for only a few years. All the years before that, it had been the committee members itself that chose which property would receive the award. So if perchance you only get a couple of nominations, and if you didn't necessarily think that what was nominated, rose to the level of the criteria that you want to consider for the awardee, there's no reason the committee couldn't, then also suggest other properties that you might think might be a better recipient for the award. You're not prohibited, basically, as a committee from choosing the awardee, because the committee did do that for years. However, of the one nomination that has come in so far, I don't know as I could evaluate it from the Secretary of Interior standards, but it was a recent commercial remodel, and hopefully, the committee might be just fine with that. But hopefully, you'll get a few more nominations as well, and
Right.
hopefully, it won't be a problem, and you won't need to necessarily come up with any nominations on your own.
Okay, so we'll look forward to next month and looking at, hopefully, making our awardee. All right, very good. We'll go on to possible action, discussion, and update on the status of properties in the historic district. Any comments?
I have a couple comments. First, I need clarification on why this is only for properties in the historic district. Could this, I guess, be revised to discuss potential or existing as well as potential or other historic properties?
Well, for one thing, we've got several thousand properties in Boulder City. It's not like I know which properties have buildings on them that are over 50 years old or not. So there are thousands of properties in the city that might have buildings that might be over 50 years old. So other than the airport hangar, which you've previously indicated an interest in,
Yeah.
I can't imagine, I can't possibly provide you a list of every single permit that's been issued in the city for the last month.
I guess I wasn't asking for a list. So we can only talk about properties that are actually listed, or could we bring to this discussion, if I don't see, let's say, the historic airport hangar, could I say, I'd like to ask a question about the airport hangar, and then for potential either short discussion or for following?
Oh, every month, you're not only allowed to talk about the items that are listed on the report. As the cover sheet, staff report mentions, this is your opportunity to basically ask about, well, we presume that you were going to ask about historic properties. But if you want to ask about a potentially historic property, you can ask the question, and depending on the nature of the question, we may have to bring it back as an agenda item. But obviously, presumably, you're not going to ask a question that isn't somehow pertinent to historic status or potential historic status.
So it is kind of open-ended then to ask questions.
It's open-ended as
Okay.
long as it is geared towards
The historic district.
the historic district or the historic aspect of buildings.
Oh,
You are
okay.
not a general interest committee. You can't just be asking general interest questions. You're welcome to ask them outside of the format of the meeting if you've got a general
Yeah, is
interest
there-
question, like, hey, what's happening down at the end of the highway, or, how's
Is there
that
a
new
time
7-Eleven
when-
doing?
Is there a time when the member of the public can ask a question like that? Is there a council
Well,
or?
No, members of the public call our department with questions about
Oh,
properties all the time.
okay.
You know,
Okay.
anybody can ask
Yeah.
a city employee a question about what's going on in town, but as a committee, you know, within the confines of this meeting, you know, your purview is the historic aspect of buildings, and yes, that could
And
be.
it has to be that.
Right, yeah.
So
All
I
right.
guess I just wanted to make that clear that it isn't just historic properties, because that's the subject matter, so.
Right, as long as your question pertains to the historic aspect of buildings, whether or not they're in the district, it's fair game to ask, and like I said, depending on the answer or how deep it gets, we may need to bring it back as a separate agenda item.
Well, I guess I'm wondering if this should be changed as a standing item for properties that are 50 years or older.
Oh, I see. You want the agenda title changed?
Yeah, just so that we're all clear on what we can and can't talk about, but also, I guess, what's expected of you, because I think you were freaking out that you had to show us
Yeah.
100 of, yeah, no, I don't want to see those either.
Yeah.
But I guess, so this is why I'm bringing this up
Okay.
first, because my second question is regarding the project for the railroad road that they're building.
Mm-hmm.
And
The road for the new railroad museum?
Yep.
Okay.
And my understanding, and unfortunately I did not attend the public get-together there,
Uh-huh.
but my understanding is that road is going to be on an existing, or be located on a former railroad grade, one of the branches of the Boulder City Railroad. And if that's the case, my question is the state or the city, depending on where the funding is coming from, will there be any archaeological oversight, I guess, of that work? Because there are historic properties there that are eligible for the National Register. And I don't think that's federal property, and I don't think it's federal funding, but it is state funding, I think, for that road. Or maybe it's a combination of state, RTC, and Boulder City funds. And my question specifically is this project following NRS 383.121?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that? NRS 383 what?
NRS 383.121. And what that's basically the Section 106 rule for the state to determine are there any properties, historic properties in the vicinity of a project, and it has to be documented. And because, so I have this handy dandy integrity evaluation of the railroad. And there's a bunch of properties that are, not a bunch, but there's a couple of properties that are listed as eligible for listing on the National Register.
Well, what I could do, and I'll admit, since just my workload prevents me from paying as close attention to other things as I would like, and I, personally would have an interest in this, but professionally I don't have time to deal with it. But what I can do is reach out to whatever staff members who have been involved with this so far, and or to the folks at the Nevada Division of Museums, or whichever office is over this project, and find out what information they can provide you. And if they're willing and able, maybe we can even get them to come before you at a future meeting to do a little presentation for you.
I like it.
That may not necessarily be real soon, because they may want to wait until they've, I presume since RTC, which would be state funds, are involved, that they're well aware that they need to do that Section 106 review and consider the area of potential effect and, all that stuff regarding the environmental assessment, which includes historic aspects. And they may not have necessarily gotten to the point where they have that consultant on board yet. So if you don't see it back before you soon, that may be the reason why, and maybe they'll have that 3 or 6 months from now. But I will definitely follow up and try to find out what information we can get you, and or if a presentation before you can be done. But that's a perfectly valid question, so.
So what I was going to offer, though, is I can also contact the SHPO and ask, and copy you
Okay.
and or Michael?
Sure.
Okay.
Blair, I went to that meeting, and they had a bunch of diagrams and stuff there for people, and I'm not sure where you're going with this here, but they had already surveyed, out the properties that are along there, between there, and everything that they're planning on doing is going to be on the state land or old railroad right-of-way. They're not taking any of the existing ground or touching any of the buildings along there. The only thing would be is, they're, where the elevations matches, they'll put like a driveway off the new road into the parking lots of these businesses. And where the elevation doesn't allow that, they're probably putting some steps in, so you can be able to park along the new road and step down into the business parking lot or the business backyard or whatever you want to call it. From what they were talking about there, I mean, they didn't talk to that there's any existing buildings there ever before or anything like that, and it's not going to impact or touch any of the of the current buildings there. So I'm not sure what if that's helpful to you or not. It looked like it's a good proposal, for the long term. It'll be given access to when and if they get the new museum built, but it'll also just nicely clean up the backs of those businesses and stuff. And they're concerned about rats and other things, and and just it'll clean it up, more parking, a little easier access for locals to get into the, go in the back doors, shall we say, as compared to the front door. So I don't know if that eases your mind at all or anything.
It does a little bit in that I know that there's no like standing buildings back there, but I'm looking, let me just read it, what the report is called: Integrity Evaluation and National Register Historic Property of Reevaluation of Railroads Associated with the Construction of Hoover Dam. And this was a Bureau of Reclamation report from 2003, where they had archaeologists basically and historians scour the area. This was actually, I think, Southern Nevada Water Authority for some reason was involved with this. But anyway, so part of the compliance was to send out these archaeologists and historians to go and find these historic properties, not just standing, but also ruins.
Something that might have been there at one time, and
exactly.
Some rusty nails to be picked up.
Exactly, and so that is one of the things that they identified was this lower spur road, and they noted that there's foundations, there's like the remnants of a foundation, mostly foundation and like concrete block and other stuff, which hopefully this project will either avoid those historic properties, because those are technically historic properties from an archaeology standpoint. But also if they're digging and going, excavating, they may find nails, but they may find other really cool stuff.
Yeah, well, they did, to best of my recollection, they didn't discuss any of that aspect at all at that meeting. They were just talking about where they put the road and how it's going to impact businesses and such. And I'm just going to guess that, the way government works, that somebody's going to make sure that they're going in there looking before they start digging for any old ruins of past
and that's what
civilization or whatever.
And that's what I'm trying to figure out if they're going to do that. So, and if they are, that would be a really cool presentation to say, this is what we found,
Right.
I think.
Okay, at this point, since we are talking about, we're getting into a little more discussion than we should, so at this point, I could say we'll follow up, with the committee either by email or a future meeting regarding this item.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, all right, very good.
Thank you.
Okay, for possible action, committee discussion regarding potential agenda items for upcoming Historic Preservation Committee meetings. I guess we just did discuss that a little bit, didn't we? Okay. All right. Then now we're at public comment again. And each person has up to 5 minutes to speak at the discretion of the chair. Comments made during the public comment period of the agenda may be on any subject. All remarks shall be addressed to the Historic Preservation Committee as a whole and not to any individual member of the Historic Preservation Committee, of the audience, or of the city staff. There shall be no personal attacks against the chair, members of the Historic Preservation Committee, the city staff, or any other individual. No person other than members of the Historic Preservation Committee and the person who has the floor shall be permitted to enter into any discussion, either directly or through a member of the Historic Preservation Committee, without the permission of the chair or presiding officer. No action may be taken on a matter raised under this item. Okay, now we are in public comment then. And, okay, and you can call in at 702-589-9629. Okay, hearing no public comment, then this meeting shall be adjourned.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.